on TV first. There, we're on the air. I'll call the Londonderry Planning Board meeting to order for July 7th, 2021, and this is our first live meeting in 15 months. So welcome everyone, and welcome our new members that we can actually see in person. So, first thing I'd like to do is ask everyone to please rise and pledge allegiance to the American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first thing I'll do, I'll appoint Lynn to vote for Chris. Chris is absent and cannot be here. So our three ex officios cannot make it, so we have 9 voting members. I mean, not usually 9 is a full complement. We have 6 voting members that is a quorum, and we can proceed with our meeting. So tonight we have, first part of the meeting is administrative board work, where we get our business done. We don't have any old business. Then we go to, we have new plans in which we have a subdivision and 3 site plans, or the site plan and site plan amendments. And then any other business, there's a few things that we're just going to update the board with and other business. So first thing, we'll go to administrative board work, and we have to approve our minutes. We have minutes from 3 meetings. That's the 26th of May, the 2nd of June, and the 9th of June. I'll take those individually in case someone was not present and wants to abstain.
Motion to accept the minutes of the 26th of May.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Lynn. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Abstentions? No abstentions, and
Excellent.
chair affirm is June 2nd.
June 2nd. Motion to approve the minutes from June 2nd.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion by Al, second by Lynn for the June 2nd minutes. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair votes affirmative, and motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 9th.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Al made the motion for June 9th, second by Lynn. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Chair votes affirmative, and the minutes of May 26th, June 2nd, and June 9th of 2021 are approved. Next, we have regional impact determinations. Do we have anything, Colleen?
Only one, and it's an item that's on the agenda this evening. It's the application for extension of temporary outdoor seating at 176 Mammoth Road, map 6, lot 72-1, zoned C1, Homestead Restaurant of Londonderry, Inc. is the owner and the applicant. Because the project does not meet any of the criteria the region recommended by the Regional Planning Commission, staff recommends the planning board find this development not of regional impact.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the 176 Mammoth Road project is not of regional impact.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Al, second by Lynn. Any discussion by the board on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Abstentions? And chair votes affirmative. And the Homestead Restaurant, Londonderry, 176 Mammoth Road, is not of regional impact. This flows a lot better
Goes
than doing the...
Without that roll call vote.
Oh, God. Oh, okay. Anything, discussions with town staff? Anything,
I
Colleen?
have nothing this evening.
Anything, Jose?
No, Mr. Chair.
No, Laura? Okay. I just want to mention that the Office of Strategic Initiatives is having a Zoom webinar lunchtime on the 15th, and it's going to cover the Land Use Board meeting mechanics. So I sent an email out with their information and everything, I think last week, or maybe the week before even. I'll resend it anyway. I don't, usually the deadline is kind of like right before or that week of it. But the one last month was on design review boards, which is our, design review committee, so, our technical review boards. There's different names for them, but some towns have them, some don't. We are doing everything that the Office of Strategic Initiatives expects, so it's good for us. Plus, it's a good review for me of what goes on, so.
When is the webinar?
It's on the 15th of July. It's at noon to 1. And then if you can always linger, because they have questions and answers afterwards too, that you have to, type in and everything.
Can the chairman send that to me? I still don't have my email.
Yep.
Oh.
Well,
So
so,
I'm not getting any notifications.
You're still not getting anything through Londonderry NH?
To the town, no.
Oh, okay. I'll send that directly.
and I'll talk with
Oh,
IT
I
again.
would appreciate that.
Yeah, you can do it, Colleen, I'll do it. At least one will get to Lynn
Yeah.
anyway, and I'll probably
Yeah,
forget.
it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been more than a few months.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll proceed then to our new plans and public hearings. First one we have is an application for a formal review of a site plan amendment. And it's for outdoor storage, changes to the parking layout and associated site improvements. It's number 15 Independence Drive, tax map 16, lot 81-3. This is zone industrial 2. Orden Limited Partnership are the owners and the applicants.
Mr. Chair, normally we would do completeness first, but if I could just, for a moment, give some background on the property, because
Yes.
the history of this addresses some of the checklist waivers that are being requested for completeness. So this property, back in 1998, the planning board granted a conditional approval of a site plan for a building addition and a drive aisle on an existing manufacturing and warehousing building. A couple of weeks later, that same month in 1998, a building permit was issued, work began on the site. Wetland permits had been pulled and obtained, work was completed. The site plan was never signed. The building officials at the time reminded by letter the property owner that they needed to complete and satisfy the conditions of approval. We have correspondence and documentation, review memorandum going back and forth from 1998 to 2001. The plans were 99% there. They just never got finalized and never got signed. I should point out that this wouldn't happen today because no work begins on a site without an approved site plan. Building permits don't get issued. This was just a fluke of something that I think a combination of oversight in the building department at the time. The property owner had the best of intentions, but things were never finalized. This came to light in 2019 when there's a code enforcement a violation notified. There's a complaint that went to code enforcement regarding outdoor storage of, as the board recalls, this came conceptually to you about concrete tunnel parts. So you've already kind of heard a little bit of this background conceptually. So this is for the benefit of the public as well. So when that violation came to light, the code enforcement officer looked at the site plan. Are they in compliance with the approved site plan? And we found the approved site plan was never approved. So what the purpose of being here this evening is to clean up the record for the property, to get a signed approved site plan that documents that plan as was approved in 1998. And then further to obtain approval for outdoor storage for those tunnel parts that are stored there on the property. So with that background, I'll just say that for the board to act on completeness, there are 4 outstanding checklist items which the applicant has requested a waiver. So the first is section 3.07 of the site plan regulations and checklist item 11.2 to not provide stormwater drainage information. Staff supports granting the waiver, but we have included a condition for additional documentation regarding relating to totally impervious coverage and pond capacity be provided to staff, so we can work with the applicant on that to verify that that existing pond was built in accordance with the 1998 site plan. We are recommending granting that waiver. We're not asking for this to be brought up to today's stormwater regulations. That would be a burden that could not be met at this point. The next item for completeness is section 3.10 of the site plan regulations and checklist item 8, to not provide a landscape plan. Staff supports granting this waiver as the proposed evergreen plantings they're proposing at this time are shown on the site plan sheet. Landscaping details are included in the detail sheet. The next item is section 3.12 of the site plan regulations and checklist item 9, to not provide building renderings. Staff supports this waiver request as there is no additional building being proposed. This is just relating to the building that was approved and built back in 1998. And finally, for checklist items, section 3.13 of the regulations and checklist item 8, to not provide a lighting and illumination plan. Again, staff supports granting this waiver as there are no proposed modifications to the existing site lighting. So with that, I would recommend the board act on the waivers for checklist items and then an action on completeness so you can begin the public hearing process.
Okay, thanks, Colleen. If the board doesn't have any questions, I'll take a motion on the waivers.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the checklist waivers 1 through 4 per staff's recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Motion by Al. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Second by Jake. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. The 4 waivers are granted. And we can go to completeness now.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the application as complete per staff's recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Motion by,
So moved.
second by Jake. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor of completeness signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair votes affirmative, and completeness is affirmed. So what this does, it starts the presentation, the public hearing, and the 65-day time frame in which this board has to render a decision. It's a little unusual, that roll call.
Moving quick.
Good evening, board members. My name is Matt Ruth here. I'm from Bedford Design Consultants. I'm here to present this current project in front of you for CSI Tunnel. One thing I wanted to note, I believe I had a total of 6 waiver requests. Some were probably checklist items.
So the four have been taken care of. The only 2 that you might want to address still, it would be the parking
Yep.
and the plan scale.
Okay.
Everything else you're good.
Excellent, thank you. So, again, we're here to provide a updated site plan based on what was discussed previously. The issue arose due to some storage of the concrete tunnel system parts being in the front of the building, as well as in the Conservation District overlay. So with that, what we're proposing is to, as the plan in front of you shows, the areas that currently have the items stored on those, all those areas are proposed to have the concrete structures removed. Currently, I think there's some cribbing, wood cribbing out front, in front of the gantry crane next to Independence Drive, as well as some concrete modular structures that those are intended to be removed. We're proposing to remove some pavement on the northern entrance to define the entrance more. We are also intend to remove some material storage bins that are located on the northeast side of the property, adjacent to the power easement. There's also a section of gravel on the Camco property adjacent to the power lines, and we have gotten approval from Camco to go in there and remove some gravel, loam and seed. We will be adding a 4-foot chain link fence along that northernmost property line, as well as adding signage to delineate the Conservation District overlay. One of the waivers that we are requesting, if we were to look at the site plan, You can see that we are proposing to stripe the pavement and add wheel stops adjacent to the building. The remaining spaces as shown to the west would not be striped, and that would be used for storage. So that is part of our waiver request for the required parking. I believe we're down to, I'll pull it up here real quick. We're required a total of I believe it's 82 spaces, and we're requesting that 51 of those spaces not be painted, which are the ones to the west side, adjacent to the large gravel area. And that's due to the number of employees that actually work at the facility. And we propose that area that is not to be striped, but shown as parking, to be used as storage. And I think I've highlighted the majority of the, I guess, improvements and issues that were part of the complaint on this. And I'll leave it to the board for any questions. We also are requesting, again, a waiver on maximum plan scale. We are at 50 scale where 40 is required. We think the plans are pretty clear at this scale. So we're asking a waiver request on that.
Okay, anything else?
No.
That's it? Okay, we'll go to staff, go through staff, we'll go to the board, we'll go to the public.
So as Matt indicated, there are two additional waiver requests. The first being to not, from section 3.09 K1I, to not stripe the required parking spaces in accordance with the regulations. As Matt indicated, they're requesting a waiver to not stripe 51 of those spaces, and they've indicated that for the current user, the 31 spaces that will be striped are sufficient to meet their parking requirements. This staff is okay with this and supports this waiver, but I have to say that with the caveat that for this particular user, the 31 parking spaces is sufficient. We do want to make sure that appropriate notation, there is a note on the plan, but we want to wordsmith that and make sure that it's clear that the waiver is for this particular user. Any other standard manufacturing user would need to meet those parking calculations, and in that case, those parking spaces, it's almost like when you approve a site plan that with, an area reserved for future parking, we want to make sure that this parking is going to be available for a future tenant. So we do support that waiver with some modifications that we've included in recommended
So
conditions of approval.
let's say if there's a change of ownership, then there's no more waiver, or the waiver is null and void.
That this is applicable to Concrete Systems, Inc. and to this current user, current operation. And so appropriate notation on the plan. Lynn?
So you may have said this and I missed it, but how many spaces are typically used in the current use of the property? We're talking 21 spaces, right? So how many of the 21 spaces are normally occupied during a business day?
I don't know if I have that exact number. Again, the majority of the building inside is for casting purposes. So it would be much smaller than what's required. And the owner felt that that was more than adequate for the number of spaces proposed to be striped.
81 total spaces, I think.
So there would be 31, so 82 are required. They would be providing 31, so the other 50 would not be. From the discussions that we had had in the meetings with the property owner, I don't know that he gave us a number, but the parking calculation is probably quite high in our regulation versus how this property is currently used based on what their manufacturing process is. Their employee count is lower. It wouldn't be the same for a different manufacturer.
Yeah, and I typically think we require more parking spots than are necessary, but my question is if
Yeah.
they have 30 employees and there's one extra space available, we might want to look at that. But if there's 15 employees and there's, 16 spaces available for visitors, then that's a different story.
We could address that by clarifying that that not only that this waiver is for this user, but if this user suddenly has a change in their, that requires the additional parking, that, code enforcement can work with them to require striping when it is apparent that it's needed.
Okay, I'm good with that.
The next waiver, which, again, the plan scale, staff supports granting the waiver as the plans are legible at the scale presented. A couple of items that we would point out, again, as discussed regarding the stormwater drainage, we would be requesting documentation be provided to the satisfaction of staff, verifying the existing pond was built in accordance with the design plan from 1998. Sufficient capacity exists to accommodate the existing pervious area on site. You'd be asking for notes and details on the future parking lot striping to be added to the plan to the satisfaction of staff. The outdoor storage area should be modified, so there's no storage within the 15-foot side green buffer. So there is a 15-foot buffer along the property line that needs to be adjusted in accordance with the zoning. And owner signature to be provided on the plan. Additionally, a note 11 on the cover sheet needs to be revised for a plan reference purpose. We're asking the applicant verify that all DRC comments are met. And just a board information item pointed out in the engineering review is that the applicant is proposing the outdoor storage on the site, so the board should consider if screening is appropriate per section 4.4.1.3.d1 of the zoning ordinance. The applicant is proposing landscape screening, a row of evergreens, closer towards the front of the property. There is no proposed screening along the other, further back on the property line. That is something the board can consider if you believe additional screening may be required. That's all I have.
All set? Jose?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thanks. I'll start with Ian on the board.
Originally, way back, I had questions about the front and the items, all the items that were stored there, the wooden, not pallets, but wooden, look like timbers stacked up. They're all gone? Everything's gone?
They will be removed, that's the intent. Currently, there is still the wooden cribbing or whatever that they use to set the structure pieces on, as well as the modular concrete buildings.
And that's still being used as a loading dock?
Um,
Will be used?
I don't know on the status of that. I do know that obviously they have the gantry crane that comes in and out of there to carry the pieces out.
So they did, and they will have approval that that front area is a loading area, and that was per the original plan. But any of that storage, there cannot be outdoor storage of material per the zoning ordinance in front of that front plane of the building. It all needs to be at the building line or back. And so they've made that adjustment in this plan, so that outdoor storage to the front of the building will be removed. One of the other items that was discussed at the conceptual discussion was the material in close proximity to the building and concerns with flammability and hazard of having material immediately adjacent to the building. They've addressed that by accommodating the gravel storage away from the building.
Okay, so therefore, no landscaping in the front area, because it's being actively used as still a loading dock?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm fine. That's it.
All set?
Yep.
Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, no, my only question was and you addressed it, Colleen, was any flammable materials that were in the front, so I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Lynn?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Al?
I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Roger?
I concur with everybody else. I'm all set.
Everyone's so agreeable. Jake?
I'm all set. Lynn, to your comment about how many employees are there, I think every time I've gone by, there's only been like under a dozen cars in the lot.
Okay, I've only seen it from the back. You can see it from the rail trail. So I've never been around the front.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any abutters, anyone from the public have any questions, comments, or concerns in regards to this site plan amendment? I don't see any. There's no one. I'll bring it back to the board, and decision is ours to conditionally approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the applicant's request for waivers 1 and 2 in accordance with staff's recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Second?
Okay, motion by Al for conditional approval, second by Jake. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Benches, chair votes affirmative, and it passes, conditionally approved.
Not quite yet.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make
Oh.
a motion to grant
Reading the wrong
conditional
thing.
approval of a site plan amendment for outdoor storage, changes to the parking layout and associated site improvements, 15 Independence Drive, map 16, lot 81-3, zone industrial 2, Warden Limited Partnership, owner and applicant, in accordance with plans prepared by Bedford Design Consultants, Inc., dated May 13, 2020, last revised March 29, 2021, with the precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 120 days of the approval and prior to plan signature and general and subsequent conditions of approval to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
a motion for conditional approval by Al.
Second?
We'll do the second. I got on the right section here. Forgive me. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Chair votes affirmative, and the plan is actually conditionally approved. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I feel like that was like 10 minutes shorter. Without having it. You know what, that was, usually took 10 minutes off of that.
30 minutes. Okay, next, we have an application for a formal review of a subdivision plan to subdivide one lot into two at number 23 Noyes Road, application, tax map 12, lot 87, zone agricultural residential 1. James and Patricia Fadala are the owners and the applicants. And we need to
Mr.
do
Chairman,
completeness.
I'd like to recuse myself.
Okay, let the record show that Ann has recused herself on.
Familial relationship.
Oh, okay. It's always better to be safe.
Would you like to have someone vote in Ann's place?
Let's see. Put Jason there. Jason will vote in place. Thanks, Colleen.
All right, so, Mr. Chair, members of the board, there are no outstanding checklist items, and staff recommends the application be accepted as complete.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Jake for completeness. If seeing no discussion by the board, all those in favor of completeness signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair votes affirmative, and the application has been accepted as complete. This starts the public hearing and the presentation, and also the 65-day timeframe in which this board has to render a decision. So just identify yourself for our records, please, and we'll proceed.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Loring. I'm an engineer at Benchmark Engineering, and I'm here tonight on behalf of James and Patricia Fudala for their two-lot frontage subdivision on 23 Noyes Road. The property is known as tax map 12, lot 87. It's a 2.3 acre lot. It's on the northwest corner of Welch Road and Noyes Road. It's about halfway down Noyes Road on the westerly side. The lot is the AR1 zone. It currently has an existing house on the northerly side, which the Fudalas have lived in since the mid-1960s. And in 1977, there's a small triangle of land along Welch Road that they did add to their lot. The lot also has in the northeast corner, there is a small wetland. There's no buffer associated with that wetland since it's less than half an acre in size. We're proposing to subdivide the property into two lots. The first lot, lot 87, is going to contain the existing house and improvements to the north. And the new proposed lot is lot 87-1 to the south. That lot will have a driveway off of Welch Road. There's a dark gray spot there. We're proposing it all lots, or both lots, will be serviced by on-site wells and septics. The new lot will, in the northwest corner, the new lot will have a detention pond to meet the town's drainage requirements. There'd be a roadway maintenance easement. There's some portions of Noyes Road that aren't 50 feet wide, so typically the town requires 25 feet from center line for a roadway maintenance easement, so we're providing that along Noyes Road. And Welch Road, it's not required along Welch Road. At this time, we have received state subdivision approval. And we have no waivers, and there are no variances or past or present associated with the property. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Okay, what I'll do, we'll go to our town staff first, and then the board, and then to the public for input. Colleen?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, as Nick said, there are no waivers requested. There are a few minor items that staff has noted to be corrected. The map and lot number, map 12, lot 87, should be corrected on all the plans. There are some places where it's just identified incorrectly. Owner signature to be provided on the plans. Roadway maintenance easement, as Nick indicated, is typically requested by the town. We've asked that they provide that draft for review and approval, and it will be recorded concurrently with the plan. Similarly, a well release or easement should be recorded with the plan. The BMPs and maintenance requirements for the drainage improvements should be clearly noted on the plans as they were stated in the submitted drainage report. And finally, the parcel ID and street address should be confirmed with the assessing department and updated if applicable. Keeping that as a placeholder, we've asked assessing to verify that, so just want to make sure that's correct on the plans before they get finalized. That's all I have.
Good, thank you. Jose?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'll go through the board. I'll start, Jeff.
I have no questions at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Lynn?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this parcel is in my neighborhood. I live about a half a mile away from it, and I walk past it every day, and I don't have any issues with what's being proposed.
Al?
No issues.
Jason?
No issues.
Roger?
No issues at all.
Jake?
No issues.
Very agreeable board. Are there any abutters, any members of the public have any questions, comments, and concerns in regards to this subdivision?
Mr. Chair, you do have
I
the
do
one.
have one, we did get a letter, and this is from an abutter at number 22 Westminster Drive, cannot attend the meeting, and would like to have this read into the record. And it is from Todd Rushton, and yeah, it's addressed to Beth. It's, thank you for returning my call yesterday. The one concern we have regarding the proposed subdivision is, there's actually two. If the new lot is developed, what, if any, impact will it have on wells of the surrounding neighbors? We have owned our house for nearly 5 years. In the spring of 2020, our basement flooded and we had to put in a perimeter drain and sump pump. We know the previous owners and can confidently say that it was for the first time in approximately 21 years, groundwater came into the basement. Speaking with other longtime neighborhood residents, I know in recent years, others have experienced the same issues. This would indicate the flow of groundwater has already changed in recent years. So my two-part question is, one, can the groundwater supply handle another well without negatively impacting the supply for others? And two, we had a complete set of tests done on a well earlier this year. Thankfully, our well is clean and healthy. It is our understanding that there are contamination issues further up the hill on Noyes Road and on Bartley Hill Road. This concern is future development of the new lot may have negative impact on the quality of water for the other homeowners. Have there been studies completed to understand the impact that potential development will have on the flow and the contamination of the groundwater? In regards to wells, that's under the jurisdiction of the state of New Hampshire, the Department of Environmental Services. That's probably where questions should be directed. We don't have any jurisdiction in that area at all. And also to contact one or some of our state representatives from Londonderry, if they could have some useful input. In regards to the groundwater, I don't know if Colleen or Jose?
Stormwater,
I can speak to the stormwater, Mr. Chairman. So the stormwater management report that was prepared for the project shows that there's no increase in the post-development runoff, and from the pre-development runoff. And further, I was looking at the map earlier, and it looks like actually none of the developed area even flows to that property. Looks like everything that flows to that property or will flow to that property after development is going to remain undeveloped.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I know in the course of the years, we have a lot of rainfall, and as other years, the last several years, we've experienced more of drought conditions, but we seem to be getting, I don't know if sufficient rainfall for getting us out of the drought, but there is, definitely more rain than this year than has been in the past several, so that has an influence on also what happens.
And the only other thing I would add on the wells, the well radius and setbacks, those are, as you said, set by the state. We do make sure that in applying, so when they apply for their well permit and or working through the building departments, they are verifying that things are being done in compliance with those regulations. So it is that the state sets those requirements, but the building department will verify and ensure that appropriate well testing is done for the new well.
Probably the place to start is really with our building inspector.
Yep. Nick would be a good resource to start with.
And we have a very good relationship with the DES in regards to our water problems in town. So seeing no further public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant conditional approval of a subdivision plan to subdivide one lot into two, 23 Noyes Road, map 12, lot 87, zoned to AR1, James and Patricia Fudala, owners and applicants, in accordance with plans prepared by Benchmark LLC, dated February 3rd, 2021, last revised June 9th, 2021, with the following precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 2 years and prior to plan signature, and subsequent conditions to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
motion by Al. Second by Jake. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair votes affirmative, and the plan has been conditionally approved. And let the record know that Ann Chapa has stepped down from this item, and that Jason took her place.
I almost got a second in there.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
You gotta be quick with the, sometimes it's silence and sometimes it's so quick, I can't, I have to, the ears are not quite sharp enough to. And next we have is Jeff, and this is an application for a formal review of a site plan for proposed one-story, 3,730 square foot bank and associated site improvements. Michael's Way and Garden Lane is the address. Tax map 10, lot 52, Pillsbury Road and Michael's Way. Tax map 10, lot 41, zone commercial 1 and PUD. Woodmont Commons Plan Unit Development, Pillsbury Realty Development LLC as the owner, and Enterprise Bank is the applicant. And we need to go to our completeness.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, there's one outstanding checklist item for which the applicant has requested a waiver. Checklist item V512 and section 4.12C13 of the site plan regulations to provide NRCS soils. Staff supports granting the waiver as the applicant has provided site-specific soils in accordance with the NHDES AOT permit requirements.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the waiver from section 4.12.C.13 of the site plan regulations and checklist item V.12 for staff recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Motion by Al. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Jake. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative, and the waiver has been granted.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the application as complete per staff's recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Motion by Al for completeness. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Jake. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. And application has been accepted as complete. This starts the public hearing and the presentation, and also the 65-day time frame in which this board has to render a decision. And let the records show that Ann is back as a voting member, and Jason has stepped down in his awesome alternate role.
If you'll bear with me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the plan up. It's just, it's slowly creeping up the screen, so Jeff, if you want to start.
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think C3 is the overall. So, hi, Jeff Cavan with TF Moran's office. We're here representing Enterprise Bank. This is, the parcel is located right at the corner of Michael's Way and Garden Lane in the Market Basket Plaza. If you recall, back in 2015, Market Basket had gone in, actually taken down portions of the building and expanded the plaza with Home Goods and another building there at the end. Basically, at that time, they had decreased square footage of the retail space. And so we had created 4 out parcels that were set up for future development. This is one of them. So this is on the Market Basket parcel, which is map 10, lot 52. The total site is 14.6 acres. Where the bank is going is approximately 1 acre. This sits on Michael's Way, which is, again, this is part of the Woodmont Commons PUD. It's in sub-area WC1GL, which is basically just the Market Basket Plaza. Currently, this area was left as paved because it was paved back in well before 2015, probably 30 years ago. And so it was an overflow parking lot is what's out there currently. And so that 1 acre will be removed, the pavement will be removed, and a 1-story, 3,736 square foot, 1-story bank will be put in its place with a drive-through and a small parking lot adjacent to it. The other thing that will occur is Market Basket is going to complete the access road in the configuration that was set up back when that site plan was done. What they had done is put the connection at Michael's Way in and kind of just blended in with the existing pavement on that drive out in. So at this point, they're going to construct that, put in the island, and add a sidewalk coming in from Michael's Way up to the plaza. So the bank itself, again, is on Michael's Way. It's considered the private boulevard as far as a street type in the PUD. We have supplied you with an outline of the regulations for the PUD. So this is considered a perimeter block type, as in the overall shopping plaza. The building type is considered a small building. This complies with all the building height. It has a peaked roof, frontage wall length and offset length standards it complies with. The one PUD modification that we will be requesting, I'll address when I get to the architectural, is the transparency, the percent transparency of the window coverage facing the street. But I'll come back to that when we get to the architecturals. The lot type is a large format retail lot type, and it complies with all the standards within the PUD. Open space for this sub-area, 1.5 acres is required, and there's 1.75 acres provided. In addition, there's no conserved green space required, but we have provided 1 acre. Overall parking, so I gave you both pieces of information since we're on a bigger lot. The overall plaza, if you go by the PUD, we only need 622 spaces The PUD actually shows a very low number because it's more geared towards that mixed use that will be in the bulk of the PUD. We have 832 spaces for Market Basket. Their typical is 5.5 or 6 per thousand. In the PUD is slightly over 3 per thousand is required. So that's why those numbers seem a little out of whack. The bank itself needs 13 spaces, and we have 25 spaces in adjacent to that bank as shown, and we include our ADA spaces as well. All the utilities have been prepped, as we came in and constructed Michael's Way, so it's got municipal sewer, Pennachuck Waterworks, Liberty Gas, Liberty Utilities Gas, and Eversource, as well as Comcast. The drainage for this, we've actually reduced slightly the impervious coverage in the area from the original parking lot, and I'm sure you know the area. There's a large drainage basin there right at the corner, and so it was receiving this runoff before. It's receiving it when we're through. There's a 36-inch pipe that runs through this site and discharges to that pond, so we're tying into a structure there right at the top of the hill. So drainage is fairly straightforward. We are going to bring in and leave a hydrant up on the site. This will prep and get a hydrant, near those out parcels there. So as we come up, right as you would turn onto the main drive aisle, in the shopping plaza, we've left a hydrant there. Landscaping, interior green space, 8% is required in the PUD. We have 12.3%. Interior parking lot trees, as far as number of trees, two trees would be required. We're providing 6. And then the perimeter, we need 4 shade trees, and again, we've provided 6. We were asked, from Heritage Commission to add a couple there along the outer edge. Those trees are sugar maple and pin oak and London plane tree. Those are the shade trees we provided. As you look at the lower left-hand corner of the plan that's up, you can see a dumpster and a transformer generator pad. We've screened that with arborvitaes. And then there's a series of shrubs that are around the perimeter of the building. Lighting within the parking lot is a kind of a standard shoebox LED, completely shielded downcast lighting for the parking lot. There are 25-foot tall poles. And then right up against the building, there are a series of lower 14-foot tall poles adjacent to the front of the building. They're more of a carriage decorative style light, but they're 14 feet in height, so they're fairly low. They're more of a pedestrian type of light. So lighting has been provided, and we conform to both the PUD standards and Londonderry standards. I don't know if you want to find the architectural.
Do you want the renderings maybe better? Sort of?
Sure, either one I think works. So, what you have is a brick veneer building, and what they've done is they've added a lot of, various features. Like there's like a stone base on the bottom of the building itself. The windows have concrete windowsill and header above it, giving that type of look. You can see the corners have those details. And then the roofing is a regular asphalt shingle, but over the entrance drive-through in that center area, that extended roof, that's all copper roofing. And I think we got very good response and input from Heritage Commission as far as this building. It obviously is a nice looking building and simple. the peak of the roof is about 30 feet tall. The eave is someplace in the range of 14 feet. So it has a nice peaked roof as far as the look. So the PUD modification that we're requesting, again, in the PUD, they talk about, trying to get more of a storefront look. And again, it seems like it was more written for that Main Street type of look where you're trying to get more of a storefront, which this would require 30% transparency or window on that first floor. We have 20%. And again, so this is based on, when it's a bank, how it functions inside, and security, where you can and can't put windows. I also think that the windows that they've shown, fit the style of the building and the massing of the building. So we have requested a PUD modification on the ground floor transparency percentage. Other than that, I'll turn it back to you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. We'll go to our able staff and then the board, and then any input from the public. So Colleen?
Sure. So as Jeff indicated, and you do have in your packet, and I think it was, and I appreciate the effort, very, thoughtfully written out to demonstrate how this building in this block complies with each of those lot type, block type, architectural building type requirements. So I appreciate that effort. I think it's,
Yes,
the
it was
board can
very,
see that.
Very nice. It was.
We'll make sure we're doing that for each building going forward. I think it helps.
Yeah, very, very helpful for.
So the only item, as Jeff indicated, that would require a PUD modification request, and modification versus waiver, the PUD uses the word modification. I guess we're fancy, so not a waiver, it's a modification, but it would be a modification or waiver from section 2.4.2 of the PUD master plan that requires that 30% transparency. The architectural drawings propose 20% transparency, and as Jeff indicated, due to security features of the bank and other elements, that 30% number can't be achieved or is not achieved in this design. Staff does support the waiver because the building otherwise meets the required architectural standards. The site meets the intent of the sub-area WC1GL, which is that, first commercial pad site there, and complies with the composition principles and standards of that sub-area. And I would echo what Jeff said. I think that attempting to hit a 30% transparency just for the sake of meeting that number would result in, windows and doors that look different and maybe don't fit the character of the building as well as this does. So I think that they've done a nice job with the architecture and the look of this building. And this is one of those instances where trying to hold to the hard and fast of a set percentage, it doesn't necessarily apply and fit well for this building. So staff does support that waiver. I'll let Jose add on the engineering.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll just go through some of the outstanding design review items. I won't hit all of them, but I'll stick to the main points and summarize. So the improvement shown within the limit of previously approved work does not appear to be consistent with the referenced October 9th, 2015 site plan. I don't know if I should clarify that at all. What sheet was that on, Maureen? I guess it was it was the grading and drainage sheet and the.
Yeah, I think we were just looking for, it just appeared that there was some striping shown on the other side of the parking lot. We want to be sure that the improvements that are being proposed for that drive aisle are in accordance with that 2015 plan. So the comment is just to verify.
So
We'll work
this is,
that out.
this plan consistency.
Consistency, yes.
Exactly.
And so the applicant should clearly identify the location of the green space to be conserved, that 1 acre set aside. When obtained, So the applicant should provide all applicable permit numbers when obtained. The applicant did not use appropriate sewer design flow values. It was from the NHDES table 1008, but not the version of 1008 that is in the town's site plan regulations. So on the grading and drainage sheet, C5, and stormwater management plan sheet, C08, the applicant should provide additional erosion controls during construction, as well as clarify legend symbols. The applicant should also provide identifiers for existing drainage structures. The applicant should update the limit of work notations to include all of the planned work associated with the bank parcel. On the utility plan sheet, C6, the applicant has not proposed an acceptable method of connecting to a live sewer main. The applicant should coordinate with the town regarding the connection of the new sewer service to the existing 8-inch sewer main using an approved method. On the detail sheet C10, the applicant should show an expansion joint detail for the concrete sidewalk on sheet C10. Sheet C13, the applicant should clarify conflicting backfill and compaction details and conform to the town standards. There's two different details that show conflicting information, and one is not up to town standards. The applicant, on the stormwater management report, the applicant should demonstrate that the existing 36-inch drain pipe discharging into the existing stormwater pond has capacity for design flows, or provide a solution to meet the town standards. Right now, the existing 36-inch drain pipe is being shown as flowing more than full during the design storm. So on the traffic memorandum, bear with me here. The applicant notes the available site distance for plaza driveways at Garden Lane and at Michael's Way does not reference what the required site distance is per LSPR 3.14C3 in the memorandum. Additionally, supporting calculations depicting the site distance should be included for review. The applicant has indicated the required site distance in the response letter, but should add it to the traffic memorandum. Site distance figures for the existing driveway should be provided in accordance with the regulations. And also, in the vehicle trip generation calculations, the applicant's assuming that the addition of the bank building will add new trips similar to the expansion of the existing shopping center. And we don't believe that that is going to be something representative of what would actually happen. So it's recommended that the applicant revise the trip generation calculations to utilize the drive-in bank land code and determine internal capture rates. We believe that'll be more representative of the number of new trips being generated. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do the board. Start with Ann.
As a planning board member and a historian, the design of this building is one of the nicest ones we've seen come through in a long time, and I congratulate you for that. I followed it through Heritage Commission and its iterations, and every one was, I thought, a winner, I must say. Now, I have some questions, though. The drive-through, is that for just an ATM, or is it for human physical interaction also?
Physical interaction.
Thank you. Now, where does the drainage go from the pond on the southwest corner?
So again, it goes to that pond. There's an outlet structure, outlet pipe that ties into Garden Lane, the system in Garden Lane.
Okay, thank you. And now, last thing I have is that first entrance into that Market Basket in your bank area from Michael's Way. It doesn't allow for an exit to the south when you're leaving from that first entrance, just to the north. Do you, is it possible to have some directions to get back to 102, or that's not really necessary?
Some signage on the
Some
site
signage,
to direct
yeah,
people
yeah,
to
from the
the.
bank, so people know how to get back out where they came from. And maybe just go to the second entrance, and you can exit from there. I don't know.
We can add directional sign if you think it's necessary.
Yeah, well, I don't know if anybody else does, but if I was new to the area and I was going to the bank, and just for ease,
I
because
think what
sometimes
might
it
be
can
helpful-
get busy. And, yeah, sometimes it does get very busy, especially weekends. I wouldn't want somebody stuck there at that exit point thinking they can go left when they can't. That's all I have. Anyways.
Thanks, Ann. Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I definitely agree and, obviously support the, not meeting the 30% transparency in the windows. Going to a bank, you want to feel secure. I think having more windows is, would lessen that. So just, kudos to that. Echo and love the design of the building. I do have a few questions regarding the vehicle per an hour, the VPH. It seems like there's just such a gap, a discrepancy of what you're proposing and what the town is kind of leveraged research to kind of identify. I'm just wanting some more clarity on why is there such a gap there.
I think that when in HTA's review, so there are different ways of coming up with those trip generation estimates. Either that it's an expansion of the existing shopping center, which gives you that very low number, or if it was being a unique standalone bank site, which has the higher generation number because it's not assuming that there's as much, internal capture of, one trip going to the center to do multiple shops. The HTA comment and our comment is really to let's find a happy medium and find something that makes sense, because it doesn't seem like just that very low number makes sense. We want to make sure it's something that's reasonable. All of this, though, is still underneath what the previous square footage and the total area of development had been. So we're not as concerned with this in terms of hammering this out because we're worried about traffic mitigation or impacts or problems on the intersection, because there are intersection improvements that have been done that have built-in capacity that will encompass this bank. It may, impact how further development could happen, but we're not as concerned with it from a mitigation perspective. We just want to make sure that we're accurately reflecting that trip generation. So it's not something that I see as being a major impact or change on the site, but just sort of, the traffic engineers agreeing on something that's common sense and reflective of what's actually going to happen out there.
Yeah, I mean, from our standpoint, we see that this is going to be relative, banks are not seeing the same business as they used to, a lot of online banking and what have you. So, I mean, you can look at it two ways. We looked at it as it's part of a shopping center. If I'm going there, it being my destination probably isn't the primary, right? I'd be going to the store and then I'll just drive through or what have you, just because of the proximity or the location of it, So we acted as if it was part of that shopping center. We have no problem with generating these numbers the other way. I don't think they're going to change substantially. Again, what Colleen was mentioning is, again, that the reduction in retail space there is 30,000 square feet, almost the size of the original store. So, we're just basically saying, well, traffic-wise, this is still generating less traffic than it, did in 2015. We're happy to provide the adjustment in trip generator in the report as a condition of the approval, and like Colleen said, we don't see that as creating any issues.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you, for that explanation. I definitely agree. When I'm seeing a bank, as important as it is to the community, I'm not seeing much traffic kind of going in and out. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that and, where those calculations came from, so. I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Jeff. Lynn?
So I'm going to echo Ann's concern about egress from the site and just, thinking about a couple of things. It's easy to get in there from 102, but it's hard to get out of there to go back to 102. The first entrance into Market Basket off of Michael's Way, if you're coming out that way, you have to make a right turn.
Yep.
But the first time you have a chance to make a U-turn, you can't make a U-turn. The way the traffic signage is set up, it really forces you to go down to the first rotary.
Yep.
And make a U-turn to come back, and I see people making U-turns there all the time. So, so my recommendation is to have some signage, you know, as you're coming out of the bank, directing you, if you want to go northbound on 102, to take you down to that three-way intersection in front of Olympia Sports and go through that way.
Yeah, we're happy to add directional signs.
Yeah, and I think that would be appropriate. And just another comment on that four-way intersection in front of Olympia signs, or Olympia Sports, that's getting tough too to get out of there if you're leaving the Market Basket parking lot on a Saturday afternoon or Friday afternoon or something like that. So, you know, strategic view from Woodmont maybe to look at that intersection, put a four-way stop in there or something like that. But I think that would help out everybody who's trying to get out of that parking lot.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with the 20%. I agree with the rationale behind that. I also agree with Ann and Lynn as far as the signage goes, and I really love the design of the building, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Al. Jason?
No, I think I think it will be a huge improvement over what's there now.
Roger?
Signage is always good, and it's a great-looking building. Thank you.
Jake?
I think the building looks fantastic. I believe the last bank we had come to us was the one going in up at exit 5, and it has a similar brick look to it that really meets, you know, what the town's looking for in terms of how a building looks. When you look at enterprise banks as a whole, they all actually look very well. So clearly they take a little bit of pride in what their building looks like. I guess I'd agree with Ann and Lynn on signage. My kind of other thought to it, I guess if I was leaving that bank, I'd go around to like the backside of VIP and come down Garden Drive. So would it be something that would be, instead of sending the traffic from the bank back into Market Basket, send it down towards Garden Drive and come out between the daycare? That would be how I would leave there. On your landscape plan, looks like it's calling for a temporary irrigation. Is there a plan to have irrigation permanently installed for the property?
And we haven't called for that. I mean, what we found is, you know, we usually call for temporary, once you've established the plants after the first year or two, you usually don't need much in the way of irrigation.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of lawn, so.
Yeah, I think I know it's not much lawn, but it looks like there is a little bit there. I think we should certainly request that a permanent irrigation system be put in. Because again, it is a small amount of lawn, but it's gonna look bad quickly. It gets hot, so I think it's gonna look bad quickly. It's my only concern.
Yeah, I'm sure being a bank, if it doesn't look so good, they're gonna make changes to it anyway. Right. Make it look good. But definitely a beautiful building. Get some award for it. It does look like a bank, so. Are there any abutters, anyone from the public that has any questions, comments, concerns in regards to this site plan? I don't see any. We'll bring it back to the board for our decision-making. We have the modification request, and then we have the conditional approval itself.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the applicant's request for the PUD modification as outlined in staff's recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Motion by Al. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Jeff. Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative, and the modification has been granted.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant conditional approval of a site plan for a proposed one-story, 3,736 square foot bank and associated site improvements, Michael's Way and Garden Lane, map 10, lot 52, zone C1 and PUD, Woodmont Commons Plan Unit Development, Pillsbury Realty Development LLC owner, an Enterprise Bank applicant in accordance with plans prepared by TF Moran Incorporated, dated March 15, 2021, and last revised June 17, 2021, with the following precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 120 days, and prior to plan signature and subsequent conditions to be fulfilled, as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
I have a motion for conditional approval. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, I got a question real quick. Could we get a feel for how the board thinks of putting a condition on of requiring irrigation for the grass areas that are inside the parking lot? I'm not talking around it, but the small islands inside of it. I know all the other recent development that's gone around it does have irrigation.
I probably would be reticent about doing that. I would leave it to the applicant because
Okay.
well, the way I look at it, it's their property. They want it to look good. They'll take care of it. They'll do it, you know, without making that requirement. How's the board feel?
I agree with you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we won't put it in, but the applicant has heard it, and I
Yeah.
think
Yep.
they know where to come for advice. Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and the chair votes affirmative, and conditionally approved.
Thank you. I just mentioned, Colleen and I briefly discussed signage. We not put the entire package in this. The bank had originally taken the signage that they're permitted facing Garden Lane and Michael's Way and split it, same square footage, but had signage on all four sides. So I told Colleen we would come back and discuss that with the board separately, just so that we didn't
Oh,
mix that in tonight.
We'll review that with the town attorney and see if that is something that requires modification by the planning board, or if that is something that they're able to do without needing to come back if that type of modification is permitted. So needs some further look at it. As Jeff said, the total overall signage would be no more than what's permitted, but it's how it would get split on the building.
yeah, it could be
whether or
like
not we
like
can
a
do that.
minor amendment, and then the staff could
Yeah.
always, send, the info to the board. If the board had any problems, they could communicate with staff about it.
We'll make sure, I don't want to have them ask you for approval of a modification if it's not really a modification and if it's permitted to be done. So we need some clarification from the town attorney to verify the right procedure to address the signage. So if it needs to come back to you guys, we'll come back, but otherwise,
We're here
the
anyway.
attorney.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, next we have is an application for a formal review of a site plan amendment for an extension of temporary outdoor seating through October of 2021, 176 Mammoth Road, tax map 6, lot 72-1, this is zone commercial 1. Homestead Restaurant Incorporated, Homestead Restaurant of Londonderry Incorporated is the owner and the applicant, and it's better known as the Coach Stop.
So.
We need completeness.
Yeah, completeness, and then I'll give you a little bit of background. So staff does recommend that the application be accepted as complete.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the application as complete per staff's recommendation memorandum dated July 7th, 2021.
Second?
Okay, motion for completeness by Al, second by Jake. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair is affirmative, and the application has been accepted as complete. This starts the public hearing, the presentation, and the 65-day timeframe in which this board has to render a decision. And Colleen has a little bit to say at the beginning.
Yeah, I'll
to
just
give
give a little
perspective.
bit of background because as the board knows, over the past year with the COVID-19 pandemic and the governor's emergency orders, which severely restricted and limited restaurant operations, this board gave us latitude during that emergency order, the time that it was effective, in order to grant administrative approval on a temporary basis for outdoor seating areas for restaurants in town. As the governor's orders were changed and modified, we kind of, came and talked to you a few times and worked through the process. As the board is aware, at this point, the governor's emergency order has expired, and there are no longer those restrictions on restaurant operations. What we had been advising business owners was that if they want to keep their seating area on a permanent basis, then the process is a site plan approval process. In some instances, it can be done administratively. Other times, it needs to come to the planning board if there are waivers and things. But that's a process where the site plan is actually being updated and it's creating a permanent approval. Some restaurants have then communicated with us because of still ongoing concerns with some folks just aren't comfortable dining indoors yet. Restaurants and businesses have maybe invested in a tent lease for the season and other items, and are really looking for some way to accommodate a temporary extension, but that maybe isn't going to be a permanent approval. It would need to come back for site plan review for a permanent approval, but is something that will allow it to continue that outdoor dining through the rest of this season. We were hesitant to do that purely administratively without the pandemic and the governor's emergency orders in place, because obviously improvements to a property and use of a property, we want to make sure things are done in the public light, that if abutters have concerns, they have an opportunity to weigh in and offer comment, and just making sure that the planning board and the public are aware of these types of issues. So we kind of created this, hybrid sort of process for businesses like the Coach Stop to be able to not need to go to an engineer and have a site plan done and go through what would normally be required for a permanent outdoor seating area. They're truly wanting to use this for a limited purpose. So this is something that, for lack of a better term, with a back of the napkin sketch, this is the seating area and review by the building department to make sure tent is secure, fire department permit for the tent, that items, make sure the public doesn't have concerns, but to allow a business to continue that outdoor seating area at least through the end of this season. So we're suggesting a continuation date of October 30, or a termination date of October 31st for the outdoor seating, which I think we discussed and seemed reasonable. So that's sort of the background on why we're here, and I probably stole some of your thunder. It's a very limited request that Coach Stop is looking to do. We as staff support it. We do recommend the 2012 approved site plan for Coach Stop limited the number of seats overall because of, existing parking. So I think the total number of seats permitted under the current approved site plan is 165 seats. What they're proposing to do is move some of those seats outdoors. They're not adding seats for the next 6 months. They're just moving some seats outdoors or keeping them outdoors through October. So we have no concerns with it, but I'll let the applicant add any comment he has.
Identify yourselves fully for our records, please.
Steve McDonough, I'm the owner, and I can probably scratch off most of those. So
I like that.
we got the permit for the tent, and then we decided we should probably ask if we can keep it to the fall. So we met with planning, building, and fire, and they said they're okay as long as we deal with the seating. So what we do is there's 24 seats under the tent. In our main dining room, we have 48, so we shut off half the main dining room on a good weather day and we only use half of the main, so we stay under the seating capacity. In all likelihood, it will come out October 1st. It's just not warm enough in October, and we're not going to invest in heaters. The past couple weeks have been too hot or too rainy. We're not really utilizing it now, but we want to keep it for those people that aren't comfortable, and there's still a small percentage of people that just aren't comfortable to be inside and around a lot of people. So it gives us that flexibility. We won't ask for it next year unless the variant comes up or something wacky. I don't know what's going to happen in the next year, but we don't anticipate putting it back up next year. It's a rented piece that cost us more money than we want to spend, but it's worth it if we can have it for those good weather days.
Good. Okay, go to staff, to the board. I don't see anyone here for public input, so you didn't bring the fan club along.
They're all at the restaurant, I hope.
Yes. Okay, Colleen.
I have nothing else to add. Staff supports the request on the limited basis and would recommend with the conditions we've noted in the memo.
Okay, anything to add, Jose?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ann?
I have no questions, because the occupancy, dining occupancy is gonna stay the same, so it's a wash as far as I'm concerned, inside or out right now.
Yeah, same.
I just like to eat outside.
Yeah.
And if we can help you out and help your business succeed, I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Well, after the beating the restaurants took last year, I'm definitely in favor of this.
Jason?
Seems very reasonable.
Roger?
Very reasonable.
Jake?
All set?
Okay, and I'll just do the formality. Is any of the abutters or anyone from the public have any questions, comments, and concerns in regards to this site plan amendment? I don't hear anything. We'll bring it back to the board for our decision-making.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the temporary extension of outdoor seating through October 31st, 2021, 176 Mammoth Road, map 6, lot 72-1, zone C1, Homestead Restaurant of Londonderry Incorporated, owner and applicant.
Second?
Motion by Al,
Second.
second by Jake. A further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Abstentions, chair is affirmative, and plan is approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Keep up the good work there.
I don't need any paperwork or anything. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Okay, any other business?
Colleen, how many restaurants still have up a temporary?
So they've all been advised that they're supposed to be coming down. The 99 has reached out and they'd filed an application similar to Coach Stop, and so that will probably be on your agenda next month. We're just waiting on that. And I should point out that we've waived fees. The only fee we associated with this was just the cost of notifying the abutter and posting the legal notice. Truly, we just wanted this to be an opportunity to make sure that we had sunlight on these things. So 99 has filed an application for the temporary. The Apple Tree Plaza, so Luciano's and Game Changers, is filing a application for permanent approval, so that will be before the board. We've already done design review and comment on that. There's a waiver required, so that'll be chief for permanent approval. Bacon Barn has already gone through the process and received permanent approval for their outdoor seating area. There should be no one else currently having tents up, and if there are, then restaurant owners were notified when the order expired that it was time to take their tents down. They had, said, you have 30 days, contact planning if you have any questions or want a longer-term approval. So that's where some of these have come. Now it's going to be in code enforcement hands to remind people, again, you have 30 days, take this down or seek proper approval. So I suspect there are a few people that are working with the building department now to get things
Great.
cleaned up. So.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next week, 14th, Colleen and Laura will be presenting a draft for the water hookup.
Yep, we'll have draft language for consideration for the water connection for subdivision and site plan regulations. And we'll also have just some draft language to show you from other towns or model language for an aquifer protection district. We'll give you a brief update on the purpose of an aquifer protection district, and we've heard the water resources are a concern. And we'll highlight a couple other regulation and zoning things coming down the pipeline. So it'll be a very exciting time.
Okay, seeing no other business, I'll,
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
motion adjourned by Al,
Second.
second by Ann. There's no discussion on adjournment, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed